Mick, welcome to the show. You have the number two podcast across all of Apple Podcasts. You're number one ranked in education and self improvement. You get over 1 million monthly downloads, and you are the face of modern leadership. I want to read a quote from you from Elon Musk. He said, "What I care about is the reality of goodness, not the perception of it. And what I see all over the place is people who care about looking good while doing evil." Relating this to modern leadership, I see so many people talk about being a good leader, but they don't care about their people, right? It's like a trending word nowadays that people throw around, but they don't care about how their team is feeling, what they're doing, and how they're achieving their results. Mick, how can people be truly amazing leaders with their people's best interest in mind?
There's four things, Elon, man. Like one, thanks for having me on, but there's four things that I think quantifies good leaders. One, a good leader is always present, meaning they're always available. They don't have an open door policy because if they have an open door policy, people are coming in with resignation letters, right? So always being present. Two, a good leader also knows their team better than the team knows themselves, meaning they get to know their people. They understand what makes them tick. Why do they want to be there? They listen, they ask good questions. Third, a good leader knows when to move the stool, meaning I know when to make Elon stand on his own, right? And not shy away from the result, not shy away from the test of time. So a good leader knows how to, I don't want to call it push the envelope. I call it move the stool. I'm going to make Elon stand up. And then a really good leader speaks less but says more, meaning they don't have to talk a lot. Their actions speak louder than their words, and they're doing the right things every time. So for me, that's the essence of being a really good leader.
Very good answer, Mick. I love it. I think that a lot of times people might overcomplicate things that they might be doing in their life, not necessarily in leadership, but let's say the whole idea of the grass is greener on the other side, right? If somebody starts a business, they might do it for like a month and they're, you know what? Like AI is taking over. I'm going to stop this thing and I'm going to switch on to the next thing. And then you look at this person, you're like, listen, if you can just be consistent for 6 months, you can achieve so much more than you really think. And I think these cliche ideas, even something we were talking about when we had our conversation together, is a lot of people don't think about these cliche ideas of, oh, stay consistent, stay disciplined, because it's so overused. But people forget how important it really is to keep in mind. I looked up on Google just out of curiosity how to be a good leader, right? I wanted a very simple definition, some general guidelines. And here's what Google said. To be a good leader, focus on strong communication, integrity, self awareness, and a positive, encouraging attitude, while also demonstrating empathy, accountability, and the ability to motivate and empower your team. So, going back to this idea of the grass is greener on the other side, we have these simple concepts of consistency, of discipline that people always overlook. Now, switching this to the leadership perspective, you have these simple definitions of focusing on strong communication, having empathy. It sounds easier than it actually is. I
Mhm.
wanted to ask you, is leadership about mastering the simple fundamentals, or are we missing a really big degree of nuance?
No, man. Leadership is as simple as a four-letter word: care. CARE. If you can exhibit and show care, then that to me is the quality of good leadership. I think keeping the simple things simple, and that's not just me, that's I get that from Damon John every day. Focus on the right things. Do the important things and do them first. That's what it's all about. Like the grass is not greener on the other side, right? Like you get to the other side and see the grass is the same color as it was on the side you love from.
Yes,
So I
yes.
think the consistency, I also think, man, just being able to understand the mission at hand. Don't overcomplicate it, right? Like at the end of the day, I'm a sports nut. Football is just blocking and tackling, bro. Like at the end of the day, that's what football is all about. Everything else is charades. You look at other sports, baseball, basketball, it's literally scoring 1 point more than your opponent, right? That's how you win. And so understanding that to me is what it's about. Keep the simple things simple, but be consistent in the mundane. And that's gonna give you success no matter if you're a leader, entrepreneur, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, a student. Just love the mundane. because that's where success is.
That is so interesting. Do you mind expanding a little bit upon that? Because I feel like a lot of people, same exact thing, when things get boring, they kind of move on to the next thing. And how can people learn to be okay with the mundane?
Yeah, you have to accept that that's where success is, right? Like you have to continue to learn and evolve. So even though it's mundane, you should be learning things. You should be seeing things. There should be things that are brought to your attention. And so I wholeheartedly think and believe that being able to see something through is really, really important. Again, not just from a leader's perspective, but from a life perspective. Right? How many times do we give up? How many times do we wish that the success someone else was having was happening to us? Right? Like keeping up with the Joneses is a real societal problem. I think social media allows us to see things that truly aren't there. And so I think just to be able to sit back and say, wow, this is the thing. And I'm gonna get through the thing. And I'm gonna sit here and be still while it's happening, I think is a big thing that we have to be able to overcome in society today.
What are some examples of some mundane things that you've done in all of your time in business and podcasting that has contributed to your outsized returns?
Having a format and a template and a process for everything I do. No matter what I do, I
Mm.
have a process and system for it, and I'm going to work that system and process. When we talk about just everyday life, I journal every day. So I'll wake up in the morning and say, these are the three things that must happen today to be a successful day, right? Sounds simple, sounds easy, but that's what I hold myself accountable to. I'm going to do that every single day. Example of mundane in podcasting is I'm going to stick to my formula, right? I'm going to ask about the because every time. Even when I know Elon, right? Elon was on my podcast. I asked him about his because that's the format, that's the template that I go through. You talk about eating healthy. I'm going to eat this meal. Some people that I know, Elon, eat the same thing every day, right? Because that's the mundane of if I want to stay in the shape that I'm in, or if I want to, have the physique that I have. I'm not talking about me personally, but people that I know, right? Like they eat the same thing every day. It's mundane. Having a routine, a schedule, getting up at 6:30 to work out every day, mundane, day after day after day. But what happens in the mundane is you begin to love it because that becomes who you are and you've created a process for yourself.
That's interesting, and I guess it makes your norm as well. Because now from, having to scroll on social media and do all these quote unquote "exciting stuff" for your brain, you have to kinda start learning how to do the boring things, and when you go from social media to the boring things, you don't wanna do the thing that is, I guess, you can't see the result of right away, if that makes sense. You were talk
Exactly.
you were talking about, you always have systems and processes in place with no matter what you do. What are some ways that people can find good systems and processes for themselves? Because I know you've established these things already. You've journaled every day, you work out every day in the morning, but how can people find that thing for themselves?
I think you have to track and measure what's going on first. And before you can create a process or a system for yourself, you have to know what you're currently doing. And so you have to start by literally writing down the things that you're doing throughout the day. So maybe you do a recap at the end of your days to understand, or a week recap at the end of your week. And again, whether that's in business, whether that's in your personal life, whether that's in school, in order to create a system for something, you have to know what is working and what isn't working. So you know what to build the system around. So I always start there. And then I need to understand what is it that I'm trying to accomplish so that the system makes sense. So again, if I'm trying to grow my revenue 3x, right? What's working now? What does it look like today? What needs to happen for it to 3x? And then build a system around that, build a program around that. If I'm trying to pass an exam, right? Like what do I know now? What do I need to know differently? Um, what's the process of studying to get the grade that I need to make? In sports, same thing, right? If I'm trying to get better, what's working now, what's not working. And so for me, the first step is always measuring what you're doing now and then putting scores around that. Are you satisfied, unsatisfied, happy, sad, like whatever it is, but put some measurables around those things.
Sure. I guess a more personal question for me, because it's something that I've wondered about. But when you're testing different things to see what works best for you, how do you know when to draw the line? Because I know for me, it's like, okay, you found this system for your business that is, helping you go 2x right now, but then you don't know that maybe the next time you're going to try, it's going to go 2.2x. You know what I mean? So how do you know when this should be the actual system that's set in place?
When it's working to gain the traction that you want it to gain. So when do you draw the line? So I'll answer that question first. When it's not working, right? When it's not working, that's when it's time to draw the line and say, okay, maybe this system or this process isn't working or yielding the results that I want it to do. But again, you have to measure everything in order to be able to validate those processes, those systems. So for me personally, when do I draw the line? When I know that something isn't yielding the output that it should, but I've given it time, right? And that's something that we all have to understand. You don't see a lot of turnaround in 30 days, but I should be able to see progress within those 30 days. And if I'm not seeing the progress, if it's causing me more challenges than it is fixes, then I need to go reevaluate that.
You have an amazing story. How much of your success has to do with your mindset?
Mm, all of it, because I have a mindset to dominate. And you know the story, right? So I was a 10-year-old kid that made a promise to my mom to change our family dynamic. And in order to do that, my mindset had to shift. I couldn't be a 10-year-old child thinking like a 10-year-old child. There had to be moments and there are days that yes, I was 10 years old, but there had to be moments where I had to be bigger than a 10-year-old. And in order to do that, my mindset had to shift to dominate because in order to win, in order to make must have change, as I like to call it, you've got to dominate whatever those situations are. So for me, mindset was literally everything. And we can go to today, right? My mindset is still I'm trying to dominate the situations, and I don't mean dominate by winner take all. I just mean if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it wholeheartedly. If my team is gonna do something, we're gonna do it wholeheartedly. We're rolling up our sleeves because we want to win. We don't take on projects that we don't see a win. We don't bring on clients that we can't help win. And so everything in my life started by knowing that in order to make change, I had to dominate something.
Given all of the success that you've had, how do you prevent yourself from getting comfortable with where you are?
Because I'm not. I'm not comfortable. I think success for everyone means something different. I'm trying to build a legacy. I'm trying to build something that my mom, my sister, my brother, my wife, my kids can all be proud of. My nieces, my nephews, that everyone can be proud of. My team members, my coworkers, my friends. I want to make sure that everything I do, people can be proud of. So success is always going to continue to be that journey point for me.
I love that. Is there a certain goal that you have in mind? Because I know on this podcast, I've talked a lot about the idea of the goalpost moving. It's like you have this thing that you want to go after, and then once you hit it, it's the next thing. And it's like, hey, I want to get to 100 subscribers. And once you get to the 100, you're like, yeah, I mean, that was cool, but now I get to the 1,000. Is there something that you have in mind to where it creates your legacy, or you think it's just an evolution over time?
It's definitely an evolution over time. Like, I don't have a mark. There's not a dollar amount. There's not a thing, a carrot
Sure,
or
sure, sure.
anything that for me that says this is success. But what I can do is just say when the story is written, right? Um, the last sentence of the last paragraph should just read, and they were proud. And if as long as that can be said, then that's success to me.
I love it. That's an amazing answer. You talk a lot about modern leadership. What is the difference between modern leadership and non-modern leadership? What does that mean to
So society's changed, man, and we can look at Elon. I know you don't remember the day when there was no internet, right?
you?
And you don't remember the days of a phone book. People and humans have evolved. We will continue to evolve, which means that, sometimes the way that we do things or say things also have to evolve. I would say emotional intelligence being able to listen first, being able to be very self-aware, and have self-regulation is something that wasn't a thing of the past. I think, we always hear this person wears their emotions on their sleeves. Well, sometimes that's not the best thing to be able to do. Sometimes it's not the best to be the person that takes the credit for everything that happens. And so for me, modern leadership looks like a lot of team collaboration and input. To me, modern leadership looks like having a ton of empathy from a leadership perspective. To me, modern leadership looks like I'm going to ask questions to get to know the people that work with me. Because at the end of the day, everyone that works for you and with you is a leader, whether that's in their home or in their community. And so we've got to be able to treat people like that. The modern employee doesn't care as much about pensions and 401ks and retirement as it was ingrained in me growing up, right? Like today, the modern employee also probably has some type of side hustle or side gig or side income that they're creating at home or with friends or peers. And as leaders, we have to understand that. We have to understand that trust is the new currency. We've got to be transparent with where things are going with the decisions that we're making as leaders, and we have to have input on all of those things. And so to me, that's what modern leadership looks like. If we've evolved a society where I can order something online and it can be here tomorrow, in some cases it could be here same day, we've got to understand that the way we communicate, the way that we lead also has to have evolved.
That is an amazing answer. I totally agree. I was also when I was asking that question, I was thinking about the idea that you're talking about with the modern employees as well. So I think it's a really good point you bring up. Just for the record, I do want to say I did live in a time with phone books. Just for anybody
Okay.
listening out there, and for you, I'm totally yeah. I wanted to ask, what are three things that people need to do today to become world class leaders?
Three things that people need to do today to be world class leaders. The first is understanding how to be a good leader and focus on being a good leader. Great is someone's opinion of you. Great is what's
Okay.
debatable, right? You don't control greatness, but you can control being good. So I'd say the first thing is being a good leader, being focused on that. The second one is invest in yourself to continuously learn. You've got to be able to want to grow, have the desire to grow because again, we're evolving. AI is here and AI isn't going anywhere. So understanding what that means and what that feels like is a big thing. And I think the third is understanding that you can't do things by yourself. It takes a team, whether that's employees or friends or your community, cheerleaders, whatever it is, it takes a team. And so I don't care if you're a solopreneur, surround yourself with the right people that are always going to tell you the truth, that are always going to look you in the eye, but more importantly, that always care.
Sure. Do you have any book recommendations for leadership?
Aside from my book that's dropping, How to Be a Good Leader When You've Never Had One, um, you know, 10x is easier than 2x is a great one.
I
Not
love that.
just from a leadership perspective, but business perspective. Seven Habits of a Good Leader. Probably one of my favorite books is by my mentor, Robert Irvine, Overcoming Impossible. I think from a leadership perspective, there's so much that he talks about in that book as far as making impact and understanding team and vision. Probably my favorite book is that one, Overcoming Impossible, because people are going to look at Robert as a chef, but he is literally the best leader that I know.
Mick, talk to me about your book.
Yeah. So, how to be a good leader when you've never had one. I wrote it. I was having a conversation with my children, and I was just asking them, like, tell me a good leader. If you were to quantify a good leader other than your dad, who would you say? And so they started naming social media influencers and people that were popular, right? And I said, so how do you know what makes them a good leader? And they paused and they were like, oh, you're right. We just see them all the time, or they have some really good gems that they drop. And I wasn't saying that those folks they were naming were not good leaders, but there was nothing that said that they were. And when I grew up, we were in the library and there were leadership books, there were leadership categories. And under the category, you'd see 100 books and you got to choose and you got to learn about people and leadership styles. And so I said, we're going into an era where we have close to 3 million leaders in the United States that are going to be retiring over the next 3 years. And this was 2.5 years ago, the baby boomer retirement phase that we're in right now. So there are people that are being thrust into leadership that really don't have an example of what leadership or principles are. And that's not a bad thing, right? It's just that's just the case because we don't talk about leadership a lot. We talk about entrepreneurship, right? We talk about marketing and we talk about business, but we don't talk about true leadership as much. And so I wanted to write a book that gave modern leaders a blueprint, that gave them a guide, that helped them understand, hey, it's okay, a lot of us haven't seen good leadership, but here's what it looks like. Here are the things that you can do. Here are the things that maybe you shouldn't do. To really be viewed as a good leader in the eyes of your peers and your coworkers.
And when you say good leader, is that under the framework of the 4 different pillars that you gave at the beginning of the episode?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We go there, we talk about, a couple of things like having because statements versus mission and vision statements. So,
Okay,
how to
interesting.
write a because statement for your team. Um, how to be a leader that truly leads not just from the front but from everywhere. We're in a spot where remote work is a thing now. So understanding how do we manage teams where you don't see each other physically, right?
That's interesting, yeah.
How do you not do things like micromanage? How do you not do things like over delegate? So this book is really going to break down not just the science of modern leadership, but give you things that you can start implementing and doing right then. And it's going to tell you a lot about yourself and who you are as a leader as well.
Sure. So nitpicking kind of something that you said I found very interesting. You mentioned having because statements as a leader as opposed to, value statements and like core drivers. As somebody who would have a because statement be a little bit more personal, how do you think you can motivate a team to be on the same, level as you when you're striving for something that's more of a personal? Like for you, you were doing your thing because you wanted to help your mom out, right? But then for somebody else working with you, they don't have the same motivation because maybe they have, you know, everything is good at home or maybe something else is driving them. So how can you kind of get them on the same page?
Man, that's a really good question. Um, it's being able to communicate openly. It's being able to share and have a place where we are gonna talk, where we are going to collaborate, where we are gonna communicate. To me, communication and trust, like I said, trust is the currency of leadership today, and communication is what pays the bills, if you're to ask me. So I think it's being able to truly set aside time to converse. It's being able to communicate your vision, your ideas. It's being able to listen and hear on top of those things. So I think as long as you're transparent about what is it that we need to discuss or what is it that I'm trying to accomplish or tell me where I'm weak. I think not being afraid to hear the truth is also really important.
Last question for you. How can you get a team to be open enough with you to where they want and are okay giving you negative feedback? I know for me, I've done this thing. One of my mentors of mine, he told me one of the things he does is he gets his team in a room and kind of long story short, he has them like he leaves the room and he tells them just to write down everything good, bad, they did whatever. And he kind of takes the bad things like more than the good because he wants to know what he's doing bad. And I tried something similar with my friends and I found that a lot of them were kind of like very hesitant to want to give me bad advice because they thought that I would take offense to it. But the reality is, I want that thing. So, how can you kind of open up an environment to where they're okay sharing bad feedback?
I think just say that all feedback helps me grow, right? All feedback as a leader of a business helps our business grow. And as employees or people that have a vested interest in this thing, feedback is what's going to help us. A lot of times from a consumer standpoint, we want to know what our consumers think. So we give them surveys, right? But one of the most powerful things that you can do as a leader is do that same thing with your employees or your peers or coworkers. So I think being able to express that your feedback is helping me personally grow and us as an organization grow is valuable. And I would say to hammer that home is the first point that I made. As a leader, you have to be present. They're going to be able to give that feedback if they know that you are a present leader. If you only communicate via email, if you never set face to face meetings or phone calls or get to know your team, you're not going to get the feedback. Or maybe you only get the negative feedback and you only get it when someone leaves you, right? So I think being able to be present, for so people can see the things that you're doing, because that's also something. I can't give Elon feedback on something if I don't really see him or know him, right? I think that has to be part of the trust that you build, is being present and then asking for the feedback.
Mick, dude, you're amazing. You're such a big inspiration. Where can people find you at?
Mick Unplugged on social media, and then Mick Hunt Official is my website. So definitely reach out. I engage a lot on Instagram, so reach out to me on Instagram and let's make it happen.
For those of you guys listening, I appreciate you listening all the way, and I will see you next Tuesday.